Hi, it's Andrea. Thank you so much for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I'm standing on a yoga mat and now Tippy is too. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. Find a place in your house that's carpeted, or maybe you've got a rug that you can use to be your yoga mat for today. I also have a couple of yoga blocks. If you don't have those, thick books are a great way to substitute. And a folded blanket, which could be as simple as a beach towel or the throw blanket from your couch. If you don't have blocks, if you're using books, I also will give you options. Sometimes it's nice to use the arm of your sofa or the seat of a chair. So those things can also be helpful if we do some balancing stuff. I'll cue you accordingly if we end up going there. Let's start standing in our bedrock pose with our feet hip distance, so otherwise known as mountain pose. Turn your palms away from each other, but let that happen originating at your shoulder joint. And let's stop so that we can start. We're standing tall, our sternum lifting, so chest bone lifting. Feel every inhale and every exhale. We do it all the time. We rarely really wait to feel or allow ourselves to experience our breath. If you can, narrow it down to just in and out through your nose. If that's not happening, breathing with awareness is all that I ask. We'll add movement. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then just exhale and float your arms back along your sides. That much again. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, float your arms along your sides. Adding more. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips and hands onto your thighs. Inhale, traction your hands onto your thighs and elongate your spine, uplift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips, but keep this length in your spine. And then inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky. We stand and then we pause, arms along our sides. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, maybe to your shins or your ankles, but we keep that long spine. Inhale, lift your heart. You might slide your hands up your legs a little to do that. Exhale, increase the hinge at your hips, but keep that long spine. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Stand into your mountain, adding more. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, your shins, or your ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart, maybe slide your hands up. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Bend your knees deeply, palms flat facing the short edge of your mat. Step it into our first down dog. I'm going to recommend your feet as wide as your mat, deep bend in your knees, on the balls of your feet, and then a hook in your tailbone is preventing you from collapsing and bending your elbows out. We don't want that. We do want to prioritize a long spine. So the hook in your tailbone is pulling your hips towards the corner where the wall and the ceiling meet, and then we'll walk forward with our feet hip distance. Take your hands to your shins, ankles, or thighs. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand, palms face out. Continuing to build our sun salutation, A. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart as you fold in, keep the long spine, bend your knees deeply. Palms are flat on your mat. Step it to down dog. You can keep as wide as your mat or move it in the direction of hip distance, but I want us to lymph into our arms, elongate our spine, find that hook in our tailbone, and then shift to a plank, shoulders over wrists. We're not caving in, we're pushing the ground away, so there's no canyon between our shoulder blades. Then let the hook take you back to down dog. Bend your knees, walk forward, feet to your hands, hip distance. Inhale, lift your heart, hands to shins, ankles, or thighs. Exhale, fold in, keeping the length in our spine. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we stand into our mountain. Inhale, arms out and up. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins, or ankles. Inhale, smile your collarbones as you uplift your heart. Exhale, keep the length as we fold, bend your knees, palms flat. We step to down dog. Feet might be hip distance, they might be mat distance, but we oomph into our arms and lift our hips. Inhale to a plank, shoulders over wrists. Bring your knees to your mat directly below where they were in your plank. Oomph again into your arms so we're not collapsed. Feel your low belly draw towards your spine. Keep that. Shift forward with your elbows brushing your ribs lower all the way onto your belly. Once you're there, uncurl your toes and bring your forearms parallel to the long edges of your mat. Traction your elbows towards you as you press into the tops of your feet and feel your kneecaps lift off the ground. We're not doing this with our neck, so chin parallel to the ground, long and strong with our little back bend here. Lower down, curl your toes under, hands next to your floating ribs. Firm your belly as you come through all fours. And then into down dog. Find the hook in your tailbone and then walk it forward, feet hip distance as they come to your hands. Inhale, lift your heart, hands to shins, ankles, or thighs. Exhale, hinge at your hips. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then pause, palms face out. One time through that, inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs, your shins, or your ankles. Inhale, slide your hands up if it's helpful to uplift your heart. Hinge at your hips and bend your knees, palms flat. We step carefully to downward facing dog and immediately find the hook in our tailbone and length through our spine. Shift towards plank, knees down, oomph into your arms, lift your low belly. Elbows brush our ribs as we lower onto our belly, uncurl your toes. Either hands stay where they are for cobra, or you go back to the Sphinx pose that we all did before. Activate your legs, curl your toes under, firm through your belly, come through all fours. Pause on all fours as we build out our next playful pose. I will turn sideways. I'm going to be a little off my mat, but I want you to be able to see me. You may want to use your folded towel or blanket for our next posture underneath your knees if your knees would like some padding. So from all fours, and I'm turning sideways so that you can see me quite easily. Remember when we did our plank, I said we're not collapsed. We want to bring that into this experience. Press and oomph into your arms. Right hand, right knee, left foot on the middle line of your mat. Now I'm off my mat, I'm just going renegade so that you can see me. You may want to pad this right knee. I'm going to keep my right toes curled under. I'm not collapsed into my right shoulder either. Left hand on my hip. And you could do this and stay here, and that would be perfect. Perhaps left arm up to the sky. This is option one. We'll all do this option for the first round on this side. Then we'll return to all fours and oomph into our arms. If ever you need to come up and do this, backs of the hands together, because I know it's a long time on your right wrist right now, feel free to do that anytime and certainly in between our sides. I will now turn the other direction so that you can see my side view as we build out our second side of this pose. So first thing, shoulders over wrists. We're not too far back, we're not too far forward, and we oomph into our arms. Then it's left hand, left knee, right foot, and our right hand onto our hip. I'm keeping my left toes curled under, and I'm hugging that left hip underneath me. And then you could free your right arm up to the sky. Remember, not collapsing into the left shoulder. See what that will get you? So we want to make sure that there's a nice sturdiness there. We breathe a couple moments here. Then onto all fours, and maybe we come up and bring the backs of our hands together. You can repeat that, perfect, no problem. Or you might do this next variation. I will actually be facing you this way to build it out. Pause a second here kneeling so that you can watch what we're going to do potentially, and that will maybe help you decide if you prefer to build right knee, right hand, left foot again. So I'm facing you now and I'm on all fours. I could decide to do that first side plank with my right hand, right knee, left foot, or step into plank and come to the outside of my right foot, inside of my left foot, and then let my left hand come to the sky or onto my waist. If I feel like it's too long here, it's pretty easy to bring my right knee down onto the ground and then curl those toes under. Ready? Come to hands and knees for all of us. Let's just be playful, silly, good fun. It's our story and we're sticking to it. Oomph into your arms. Make sure shoulders are over wrists. You can leave your right knee down or step into a plank. Keep that oomph happening. Roll to the outside of your right foot, inside of your left foot, and then take your left hand onto your hip, maybe even left arm up to the sky. If we're here too long and you want to bring your right knee down onto the ground, you can always bring your right knee down onto the ground or onto your folded blanket. And then through plank, and then hands and knees, all of us. Let's come kneeling, and let's put the backs of our hands together. When we're playing on our arms like this and our hands like this, our wrists probably appreciate a little release. Then hands and knees again. Your choice of leaving left hand, left knee, right foot onto the ground, or stepping into your plank. And from your plank, coming to the outside of your left foot, inside of your right foot. So a scissored situation, right hand on your hip, maybe even right arm up to the sky. And if you wanted or needed it, your left knee could come down. Now make sure you're not collapsed into your left shoulder. Keep enough strength to come through plank, and then hands and knees for all of us. And let's come kneeling and place the backs of our hands together. We'll make our way into downward facing dog. So face that short edge of your mat. From all fours, curl your toes under, find the hook in your tailbone, come into down dog. Feel free to position your feet wider and bend your knees, no problem. Now we'll lift our right leg back behind us and then step it forward, and it might be that we need to help that along, no problem. I'm going to bring my two blocks on either side of my right foot so that I can find a sturdy base to steer my right hip back and my left hip forward. And I'm going to nerd out a little bit on what's happening in my left leg. So my left hip is in what's called extension. I'm nerding out on that because I know what comes later. So you might want to nerd out on it with me. And we'll just stay here in our lunge, and I like my blocks tall often so I can use them to traction, sort of like we did with our Sphinx and with our Cobra, but here in a lunge shape. And then to come back to down dog, you may want to bring your back knee down, move your blocks off to the side, whatever it takes, to step to down dog. Then we'll lift our left leg and step our left foot through, which could be helping it along. We'll stay on the ball of our back foot, and then we'll use our blocks to steer and to feel length and traction through our spine in this side of our lunge. 2 more moments here. And then whatever it takes, even if that means bringing our back knee down, move your blocks off to the side, step to down dog. And from down dog with our hook and our tailbone, let's walk forward, feet to hands, hip distance, hands to ankles, shins or thighs as we uplift our heart. And then we'll fold it in, but keep the length in our spine. Inhale, rise, reach, thumbs to the sky, a V, and then we'll stand. And pause in our mountain. I'm going to face you, and then I'm going to turn sideways so this all makes sense. Standing on our right leg, we will bend our left knee and hold on to the pinky side of our foot. If this is really hard to arrive at, you can use a kitchen towel and lasso that left foot, or even maybe the towel that you have here. I'm turning sideways so that you can see. I'm holding the pinky side of my left foot, and then you can take your right arm in front of you or even up towards the sky as we kick our left leg back, something called King Dancer pose. We're upright. There's a little bit of a feeling of that Sphinx pose that we did. Our outer right hip, so I'll keep turning towards you so you can see the various things I want you to. Outer right hip is hugging in, and then let's step down into our mountain and do the second side of that. Standing now on our left leg, maybe left arm in front of you. You can lasso that right foot or even just fake it till you make it without holding on. That's fine as well. And then we've got our left arm might come to the sky. We're kicking our right leg back. We're making sure the outer left hip is hugging in. King Dancer pose. 2 moments. I always joke that this is the pose that they use to advertise yoga retreats. We'd be in front of a waterfall somewhere, and then step down and into your mountain and pause. Let's situate our blocks off the sides of our mat. Stand facing the short edge of our mat. We'll combine a few things and make it into kind of a fun, playful, inner child-like flow. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles. Inhale, lift your heart. As you fold in, bend your knees, palms flat. We come into down dog. Remember the hook in your tailbone, the length in your spine. Inhale, lift your right leg, and then step it forward if it needs you to help it along. No shame in that. Hands to our blocks, and we're in our lunge. Now this time in our lunge, as we traction lengthen our spine, we'll take this into a little bit of flight. So we'll stand on our right leg, move our blocks about a foot out in front of us, and lift our left leg. Now if your blocks are too low, this might be an opportunity to step down carefully, go to find the arm of your sofa and use that instead. That would be a great way to turn your sofa into a little bit of a prop. Now bend your right knee so that you know that you've got some sturdiness. Left knee into your chest as we come up to standing. If it's wobbly, that's fine. That's why we're doing this. And you can give it a little hug. Remember our King Dancer pose? Let's do it. So right hand on your hip. Start to line up your knees, either lasso or fake it or hold the pinky side of your left foot. And then take your right arm either in front of you or maybe that V shape towards the sky, kicking that leg back. We're not low chest the way that we were a moment ago in our letter T. We're upright. And then we'll step down and let's make it a chair pose. Feet hip distance, thumbs to the sky, and then stand into your mountain. Move your blocks back to their position off the sides of your mat, just so they're handy for side 2. We stand with our feet hip distance. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky, a V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs or shins or ankles. Inhale, uplift your heart. As we fold in, we'll bend our knees, palms flat, step back carefully to down dog. Find the hook in your tailbone. No bent elbows, no collapse. Left leg lifts behind us, and then we step it through, and it might need us to help it along. Trot your blocks onto either side of your left foot. Steer left hip back, right hip forward. Think tractioning that length into our spine, firm through your belly. This takes a fair amount of trunk stability to move our blocks forward about a foot, stand on our left leg, and elevate our right leg in a letter T. Maybe you're using the arm of your sofa or a chair. Now from here, bend your left knee, firm through your belly. We come up to standing and we hug that right knee into our chest. If it's wobbly, the wobble is the win. We're giving it a shot. We're playful, childlike about it. And then we'll let our knees line up, and it can just be fake it till you make it with your left arm out in front. You might be lassoing your right foot, and we kick it back, maybe a V shape of that left arm. And then carefully step it down into chair, hip distance, thumbs to the sky. And then we will stand with our palms facing out and pause. Once again, let's make sure that these are not in our way, we'll take them off the two sides of our mat, and then sun salutation A. Inhale, arms out and up, thumbs to the sky V. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to thighs, shins or ankles, your call. Inhale, lift your heart. Exhale, fold in, bend your knees, palms flat, step back, down dog. Remember, our priority is a long spine and that hook in our spine, and then we come to plank, oomphing into our arms so there's no concave, knees down, belly strong. Shift it forward all the way down onto your belly, uncurl your toes for either forearms down, Sphinx, or hands remain for Cobra. We're not too much in our neck or our low back. Curl your toes under, firm through your belly so you know where you're going. Come to all fours, and this time pause on all fours. We're coming into something called dolphin pose, and this is tricky for shoulders. That's why I want us to just be playful, right? Believe it or not, this pose sometimes turns into something completely upside down, both legs to the sky. That's ridiculous, but it's playful. So we're going to pretend. We're going to pretend that we're doing that pose that's actually called Pinchamayurasana. And what we will do is either on our forearms, interlace our hands. So this is especially true if it feels like, gosh, this is a little slippery and I'm not sure. Or you could put your palms flat the way that we did Sphinx pose. I'm going to suggest most of us interlacing our hands. Don't feel like you have to stay here very long. Remember how I said it's really important that we keep a long spine in down dog? This is in the same family tree as our down dog. It's a down dog on our forearms, and it may not work in everybody's body, but we're just playing, so it doesn't matter. So I'm going to step my knees a little wider, and then curl my toes under, karate chop into my forearms, and that might be where it stays. Totally fine. Maybe I lift my hips up and I find the hook in my tailbone, and as I karate chop the ground, it turns into what's called dolphin pose. And just imagine, like, we wouldn't be interlaced with our hands, but imagine both legs going to the sky. Isn't that silly? But it's imaginary, and we want to still have an imagination, even when we're a serious adult. We'll bring our knees down on our mat, take a little bit of a respite. Now, if you are still karate chopping, so watch me for a moment. If you're karate chopping and this is rounding, we need to make sure that you don't let your knees leave the ground and that you find the long spine first. And it might even just be that you hover your knees for a moment, but you keep the priority of a long spine and the hook in your tailbone. If for some reason you're able to karate chop and get into a bit of a V shape that looks like a down dog, great. Your legs might move a little bit towards straight, but we're just playing. Let's try it one more time. I want you to be able to find the play, and I want you to be able to find the length in your spine. That's all we're going for. So karate chop away, and then just see with the hook in your tailbone where it might live. It's a lot of strength for our shoulders, and it's a lot of flexibility for our shoulders, like a whole bunch. And then bring your knees down. Let's turn this into child's pose. Uncurl your toes unless you like your toes curled under. Release the interlace, and your arms can reach in front of you or your arms can reach alongside you, but let's just pause. I've thrown some pretty new stuff your way to play with, so give yourself a moment to digest it. If it doesn't feel good without a block under your forehead, prod a block in and let your head rest on it. 2 more moments. And then we make it down dog, so shifting towards all fours. Downward facing dog, we find the hook in our tailbone. Lift your right leg back behind you, and then carefully start to create a single pigeon. So here's the thing. Your right shin is not trying to be parallel to the front edge of your mat. Back in the day, that's how they would instruct this. But you are moving your right knee towards the right side of your mat a little bit, and I'm going to suggest that a lot of us would benefit from a block to sit our right sit bone on, and then you will feel as though that extension from our king dancer comes into your left leg. So just think of rotating your left thigh to face the ground. It's completely fine to stay upright. We're trying not to completely splay over to the right this way, but I mostly want you to be fine with your right knee. So if it does look that way, so be it. But the beauty here is that we have what's called an external rotation in our right hip and extension in our left hip. You might take your second block, walk it in front of you, find our traction of the Sphinx pose here, long spine. I've got my left toes curled under, that's helpful to me, but you can also be on the top of that foot. A couple silent moments here in this shape. For some people, even a bend in the back knee can be helpful, so it's more like what's called a 90-90, that's fine. Let's make our way, and it's easier said than done, but back to our down dog. My goodness, right? Palms flat, so we gotta think about it. Palms flat, we'll curl both sets of toes under, bring ourselves off that other block, into down dog, and probably move the block off to the side. Left leg lifts behind us, and then we'll just step it through, and we're not trying to get that left shin parallel to the ground. Sitting on a block with our left hip, pretty great idea. If this back leg needs to stay bent, completely fine. But we are thinking about spinning that thigh to the ground. So when I say thinking about it, I really mean don't force anything. That's not what we're here to do. Now you can stay upright, you can walk forward. My suggestion is if you're walking forward that you might use a block so that we can kind of think about getting some length in our spine. Find the sweet spot where you are the expert. So not sharp pain ever, just enough sensation to know that it's working. We'll stay for a few moments. On this side, we'll make our way to hands and knees. So I'm planting the seed early so that you get that we want to move our block off to the side, curl both sets of toes under, move the other block out of the way, come to hands and knees. From hands and knees, shift a little forward, lower to your belly, roll over onto your back for our Shavasana final meditation. Just rolling over onto your back, bend your knees, place your feet as wide as your mat. Let your knees knock knee together, shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you. You might stay here or straighten one leg and then the other leg and fall into the arms of the earth. Stay here in Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready, you might stretch your arms and legs away from each other, gather your knees into your chest, roll carefully to either side. Allow your head to be the last thing to come up to any comfortable way to sit. We just seal our practice with hands in a prayer or on our heart, grateful to be able to move and breathe this way together. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me. I look forward to us doing it again together.